Welcome to Slow and Steady, the podcast where you get to follow along as we build products in public. Each week, we'll give you an honest peek into our lives as we share our struggles, our wins, and everything in between. I'm Benedikt, and I'm feeling good.
And I'm Benedicte. Today is May 9th. This is episode number 179, and I'm feeling happy.
Woohoo!
Yay! Do you know why I'm happy?
Because you're not sick.
True. But I haven't been sick for a week and a half.
Okay.
But I've still
So
been
that's wearing
off
already.
That's wearing off. I almost forgot until I read our show notes where I'm like, what was my last kind of things? And it's like, I was sick again, completely evaporated from my memory. I'm like a child that way. But anyway, no, I am, it helps, because I also did my strength exercise last week. Like I'm on point. But earlier today, I got an offer for a staircase inside of, our house, or my mom's house actually, but it's my house now. And that's just how adult I am.
Like, what?
It's like a fireplace. Like a staircase is just like, it's so beautiful. And it was much cheaper than I had imagined.
Oh, yeah. Well, that one makes you happy, right?
Yes. So it's actually within our, budget. So we'll get a staircase, which means that we'll basically get almost a full new floor in kind of her part of our property, which then means that we're going to get some storage and maybe like a, sewing craft area and a little kids area. And that's
walk me through your house in a way. Like, I know you've got something upstairs because that's where Ola is hanging out during your live streams.
Yes, that's his office. But it's actually, that's a different upstairs. So our house is, or our property, I would say, is a old factory from 1890, or they think it's built 1886 is kind of their estimated building time. Or it's been built in like multiple. Anyways, so it's like a factory building. It's a square brick building, but it's got 6.5 meters on one side and then 5 on the other side of the square. So it's got a slanting roof. So we got like 5.5 meters on one side. We got 6.5 meters on the other side. And then we have 2 little mezzanine floors that are at like 290. So it's not standing height on the one side, but it's it's more than standing height on the other side. And then we have a little like connector building, and then Ula and I and the Pirate Princess live in a old, then kind of the worker house, like where the workers for the factory would live. I don't know what the terms are in English for these things, because it's like a normal setup where it's like it's a factory building. There's a backyard, and then there's a like the building you would live in, and that is like a tiny wooden house. And there we haven't built out the loft or anything. So Ula has just kind of made his little area on the loft as his office, together with all our storage stuff. And there's no insulation or anything up there. So that's going to be 10, 15 years down the road when I'm a gazillionaire. That's when we're going to do anything. But then, so my mom lives in the factory, and then we live in the old house, and in the wooden house. But then she had stopped, like she had plans that never came to fruition because she has Alzheimer's and she's had that for a while. So things just stopped and we didn't realize why. And then now I'm kind of picking up on some of kind of her plans and seeing them through. And that's going to be awesome. So that's why I'm happy.
Okay, so one of them is a staircase to one of those mezzanines.
And then and then there will also be a connector between the 2 mezzanine floors. So we're going to get I would say we're getting about 50 square meters of extra floor.
Awesome. Just by adding a staircase, that's,
yes.
It makes sense. If there's no staircase right now, then just adding a way to get there opens up that space for use, right?
Absolutely. And it's going to be open still. Like there's going to be a big portion that's open. I think kind of the ground floor is like 70 70 or 80 square meters. So we should be getting like 40 or 50 when we add this staircase and we connect everything, and still have like a big open area that will have the full 5.5-meter height. So it's gonna be, you gotta come visit. We can do a live one from the backyard. Anyway, so for everyone who like sat through all of that, that's my house or my property or whatever. It's just very adult to suddenly be in charge of this property. It feels also like a large responsibility, but a fun responsibility at some point, and a very exhausting responsibility at other times. Sometimes not. When we realized, because there's like one part of the house, like this, or the one part of the property, it's this connector building, was newly built. Well, it's not new anymore, but it was built in like 2003, 2004. So it's the newest thing on the property. You know, the other things are from like end of the 18th century. And then we had some people doing our chimney when we got the new wood stove, and they were looking down at the roof on this pretty new building, and they're like, there are holes in your roof. And I was like, I don't want to hear it. La 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 la. I'm not hearing it. Not hearing it. And I was like, how can the newest freaking roof be the one with holes in it? Like, our roof is slanty, and everybody's like, you need to exchange your roof on this like wooden house. But it's actually like no water is coming through this roof. But then this like new roof has big holes in it. So that's next on the list.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Sometimes it's not fun, I guess, right? Stuff like that you'd rather not deal with.
And such boring use of money. I guess it's like with software, it's like refactoring the, some service. Like the user isn't seeing that at all. It's obviously good for them. Like it's good for us not to have a leaky roof. But like it does nothing aesthetically, it does nothing functionally. Like we get nothing except not problems in the future.
Yeah. Well, you could like add a new feature while you're refactoring the roof.
I could make an illegal balcony or something.
Maybe embrace the holes and put windows in there or something like that.
We already have, actually, there are windows in that roof. But there's some way like we can't. Anyway, let's stop talking about properties.
We're getting way off topic.
Way off topic. But I must say, spending time outside of the internet is good.
Yes.
And dealing with like 3D physical things is also good for my brain. And is in part why I'm so happy.
Imagine how good it will feel when the staircase is finally in. When that project is done and you can actually see it and touch it and use it.
There will be a video and everybody will have to see it. Anywho, so what's up with you? Do you have any,
like no life-changing updates in that regard? Like we're not getting a new staircase. The roof is still fine. At least I hope so. I mean, it's not our house.
Have you looked at the roof? Oh, okay. Well, then it's fine.
It's been a while since I checked out the roof, but so far no water, so it should be good. Let me think. It's been a while since we recorded an actual update episode. Like the last recording we did was with Anthony, and then last week there was public holidays and stuff like that, and I had construction outside at the neighbors, so it was noisy anyways. But a lot of stuff happened in Userlist since then, at least on the product side of things. We finished the reporting feature. It's done. It's shipped. It's live for everyone. The only thing missing is we haven't announced it yet. Like at least not publicly. Like no, there's nothing on the blog. There's nothing on the website. So it's still kind of soft launched. I'm planning to do that either end of this week or probably next week. But yeah, I'm glad it's done. I'm super proud on how it turned out. It's working the way it should be. It only took like a month longer than previously planned for. But that was mostly because I guess I built too much stuff into it that we don't need absolutely right now, but would be good to have for future stuff. So that slowed me down a little bit, but then again, now it's done. I don't have to do this down the road. So we can add more reporting features to everything else relatively easy. And you should probably do that soon, because otherwise, I don't know, it just was for nothing. But yeah, anyways. So that part's done, feels good. We also used the opportunity. So basically, when we launched the broadcasts feature in end of 2019, something like that, like a long time ago, basically from day one, Jane was not happy with the state of the UI when you clicked send or like deliver or whatever, and it was actually it was sent out and stuff like that. She never liked that part because, to be honest, it also wasn't good. We basically showed the standard form to edit stuff, just with all the inputs disabled. And then at the top, there was like a small table where it said like broadcast delivered on, and then the number of total opens, the number of total clicks, and the number of total messages sent. So that's it. Like there was nothing else. And now that we have more reporting, we of course, like the default view when you send a broadcast, now you get like just to the stats, like with a chart where you see what happened over time. We replaced that table with a nice widget that tells you how many messages you send. No, it doesn't tell you how many messages, but it tells you when it was sent and to whom it was sent, like the segment or the number of users and stuff like that. And when it's not sent yet but scheduled, there's a button where you can unschedule and stuff like that. So it's a lot nicer. Contextual UI, a lot cleaner UI. And there's still, like, you can still access the form with the disabled inputs, but it's not a default view anymore. And we also took the opportunity while we were working on all of that to change that broadcast form a little bit, because I know previously it was like the recipient segment or like the collection of users at the top. Then you'd select a channel if it's like an in-app message or an email. And then you had to set a name for the list view, right? You had to set the subject line, optional pre-header, and then the content and all of that. And especially that name field never made any sense in the context of the form. So we also used that opportunity to extract that. So now when you create a new broadcast, we open up a modal first. We can enter the name. And then when you confirm that, you go to the regular form page where you fill out the message. And now, like, the form is a lot cleaner because that weird name field isn't in there anymore. It's the same pattern that we use for campaigns and for forms. So everything that you create in Userlist now has the same pattern where you click the button, you get a modal with some basic settings, and then you can do like the full configuration afterwards. And overall, like, just getting rid of that name field, I keep repeating myself, but just removing that made the form so much nicer.
I totally understand, because it's the little things that like drives you insane, right?
Yes. And with that now, because it's not part of the form anymore, you can also edit the name of a broadcast that was already sent, because previously form was disabled. There's no way to change it. So yeah, like such small changes like that, we sneak into it.
Then I guess, like, if you make something new, then you can be like, oh, this is the old, like if you want to reuse the name, you can go and call this like the archived or old or whatever, like and then you can send, or then you can create something new with the same name, but you don't have to then be like new or like one.
Yeah, or you at some point you decide, my naming scheme for this thing is wrong. Like I need to categorize it and put like product update or something in front of it. Mm-hmm. That was previously, like, we had support requests of people mailing into support telling us, hey, I sent this broadcast a while ago. The name doesn't make any sense, but I can't change it. Can you please do something about that? So it's at one point going into the database and like just fiddling with that value, so it made sense. So yeah, we used the opportunity to change that as well. So overall, I feel like good quality of life improvement for sending broadcasts and user lists. And Jane's happy, I'm happy, our customers hopefully are happy as well. And yeah, so that's the new stuff we shipped recently.
I just want to slip in there because I think I saw in kind of our engineering Slack on channel on outside. I think they just did something similar where after you sent the broadcast, you were sent back to the forum, but it was disabled.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're not. Now you're sent to the stats page or like the summary page.
Yeah, it makes so much more sense.
and I guess the projects are about the same age because you've been at it for six years, or how long?
The company's turning it's a little bit over 5 years. The company's the incorporation's birthday is coming up in 2 weeks actually. So
Ooh.
yeah.
So similar. So like 5+ years, you finally fix this thing because it's working and using
and I guess that's also the thing. Like, as I said, like Jane has been talking about this basically since the day we launched it, and we were always like, yeah, we know. Like, or I was like, yeah, I know we should do this, but there's this other list of stuff we should be doing. And we also know that at some point we want to like have better reporting, or like, I don't know, like show more data anyways. Like in the early days, there wasn't like, that was all the information we had. Like it was all on that page. There wasn't that much we could do about it. And it always felt like other stuff is more important. But now that we got back to this and we're touching the code anyways, it felt like if we don't do it now, then we don't have an excuse to not touch this as well, because we're fiddling with the code anyway. So yeah.
So I have an anecdote back to like, refurbishing houses, which is more on top of mind for me these days. But I have had so many friends, buy and sell apartments or houses or whatever. And, you often get called in to do, to help them paint when they move in. And I noticed this trend, like if you don't paint the trimmings, like in that session when you're like moving in and you're painting the walls, the trimmings, like the little kind of like the wood piece that's between the wall and the floor or around the windows, but usually it's the one that is like along the floor and up against the wall. Like that trimming is often like, oh, that we can do that after we move in because it's not like a big lift. Like you can just like move the sofa around and you can do this. If you don't do it,
just move the sofa around, right?
If you don't do it like in that session when you're like moving in, it's usually not painted until you're selling.
Yeah.
And it takes not that long and you're like, now we're moving it out and now they're looking good. Could have had. So I don't know if it's like similar process. Like if you hadn't been working on that reporting feature, maybe you wouldn't have done anything with it until a potential sale. You would have like, oh, we should clean up some of these like little things that are not that little, but little. I don't know. I just thought about painting trimmings when you were talking about this. I don't know why.
Yeah, but I guess it's true. And I guess also, I think one part that's hard about like just building software, maintaining software, is being fine with that, right? Like we could have stopped a million times and fixed this UI element. But if you're absolutely honest with yourself, it wasn't really that broken, right? It did its job. Maybe it wasn't looking super nice, but like no one, well, except for this one user who wanted to change the name, no one ever complained about that view, right?
Yeah.
While people complain about other stuff. And arguably, it's more important to fix the other stuff than make this one look particularly nice. And actually, that brings me to something else that happened recently. So we had a pretty good December and we had a pretty good January in terms of growth, but the last 3 months have been kind of stagnant. And what's worse, we had a couple of our bigger customers cancel for various reasons. But 2 of them in their cancellation mentioned that it feels like we did not, like the product is stagnant. There's nothing happening. And that hurt a little bit.
And that's not true. It's not like if it was true, that would have been fine. But when it's not true.
Yeah, exactly. That's
because you've been fixing the roof leaks that nobody sees. and not fixing anything that's visible in the UI, even though it's better for them. They don't see
Yeah,
it.
like that's exactly the thing, right? Like admittedly, over the past year, we did not launch a new feature in terms of like it's something that Userlist did not do before and is now doing. Like I think, well, we launched a couple integrations and stuff like that. So it's not entirely true that we didn't do any of this, but the biggest project was redoing the editor, which is a lot better now. But I guess it's one of those features that you don't notice, right? It's you expect a product like this to have an editor, and you expect it to be not shitty. And maybe you notice when it's
I think you
shitty,
kind of expect it to be shitty. I think maybe
or
that's part of the
maybe
problem. Like you've gotten so used to them not like working so well, so you kind of
yeah,
learn your workarounds, you get your things sent, and everybody's a little like, but you just get used to the inconvenience of
yeah,
whatever editor you're using because they all have like slightly different inconveniences, and
yeah,
it annoys you until it doesn't anymore because you got used to the trimmings not being painted, and it's
yeah.
like I don't
It's
see it
not.
anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And while I still think it was good to invest the time and do all of that stuff, because ultimately the experience is a lot better. It set us up for like more stuff that we can do with it in the future, and it doesn't lock us in that much anymore. Um, but yeah, like I don't know, like reading those comments hurt a little because I feel like the product has gotten a lot better. Um, but it's not visible or it's not that obvious. And that got me thinking again. I like maybe we should change the UI more, right? Maybe we should focus on moving stuff around, change the color scheme every couple of months. Just
It
making
feels
sure,
like things are happening.
yes, so that it feels more that stuff is happening. But also then again, stuff like that doesn't come for free either, right? It still takes work to redesign everything, and then you have works because you forgot to I don't know, style something, or you forgot about an edge case, and so you spend stuff on the vanity, basically, like repainting the trimmings, instead of actually doing useful new stuff. Um, but yeah, I don't know. And then even with new stuff that we added, like one of the comments was something like, since I signed up, the product didn't change. The only things you added were like support for company accounts and support for marketing emails. And I'm like, those are like
Those
the
are
biggest
huge.
features ever, right? This took months and months and months of engineering work and unlocks like use cases that other products can't do, or like some are catching up now, but um and I'm like, yeah, I mean, you say it's just those features, and I'm like, what the hell? Like this took forever to build.
Oh, I
Um,
feel, oh no.
but then again, fair enough. Like if those features are not useful to that particular customer, sure, I get it. Like, and it's fine. Like if you find something
But
else, then sure you have to move on. But yeah,
I
it
think
took
it's the,
some. Yeah, go ahead, go on.
I, I feel it's wrong that we do expect software to change as much as we do, or like that we feel like a software that isn't changing is a bad software, where it's like maybe it's a stable software,
Yeah,
like a lot of your features are stable and they're working like they should work. Do we really want to just move things around so that it should feel like things are happening?
yeah,
Because you see that with some companies and or some products where you're like, well, now you just changed it and it's worse. Like it's, I see that you change things, or like, oh, it's a new menu structure, or it's new, it's like a new something, and it's like, but why? Why is it new? Like, why did you do that? Like it's and
yeah.
but I guess that's because of those things. Like it feels like if you're not kind of changing or adding, you're stagnant. Um And I don't think we can change that, like, because that's the perception we have or people have, but I don't think it's doing us that much service if that's what people are expecting, because
And
a product that works. Like,
yeah,
it works.
and then the flip side of this is, right, like if nothing changes, or like the UI stays the same, or it doesn't look like things are moving forward, people get mad because it's not moving forward. But then you do a big redesign, and then people get mad because everything changed, right? Like it feels, I mean, it's not that
Doomed
bad,
if
but
you
it
do,
feels
doomed
like,
if you
yeah, it feels like you're doomed either way. I mean, it's not
So
that
what
bad,
we
but
know now, it's like
yeah,
tiny. You need to just, but we've talked about this before. That's something that might be a major undertaking. Kind of release it to the public as many smaller updates. We talked about that with your message composer or editor,
right,
like that it could have been like, and now we have support for like something you didn't have before, but it was all part of that one update. But if you announce every single feature of the editor as a new thing, then it would feel more
yeah,
like things were changing. Yeah.
maybe, but like add some complication to that. I checked those users that canceled, and they had all unsubscribed from our emails. So
Yeah.
I was like, that probably didn't help either. So I don't know. Like,
No, so then you just have to like feature flag every single thing of the editor and be like, and then and then they log in. Suddenly they have an image button, and suddenly they can add a. But I guess
yeah,
you
and then
can't
have like a
change one
pop
as
up
well.
and like have like something, right? I
Yeah.
mean, what we did with the reporting feature now that we launched it to everyone, like the broadcasts send state basically, and the campaigns and all of that, they now have like tabs on top where you can click between the message and then the performance. And the performance tab has this nice little new badge on it, so you instantly see, oh, there's something new.
Ooh.
So maybe that helps, maybe that doesn't help, but
Yeah.
I mean,
And
one of
also
the other,
some things are just things you can't solve, right? People will come up
yes,
with all kinds of might not even be the real reason. Like they just felt like they had to come
very
up with a
true.
reason when presented with a field to give a reason for
Yeah,
canceling, and
yeah.
that's what they felt was like a plausible reason.
And I get it. Like, it's not, I'm not mad. It's just like it hurt a little because we've been
Yeah,
working so much on this. Um,
I know.
but if they feel like, it's good feedback, in a way, right? Like, it's good to know that they feel like there's not enough progress. Um, but I'm not entirely sure what the solution is for that, because
More new tags in the UI.
maybe it's more new tags in the UI, or maybe, I mean, we now have layered unsubscribed. It might be that they unsubscribe from all emails because that was the default for the longest time, and now they can like unsubscribe from the newsletter but still keep product updates or whatever. Maybe that helps, but again, like, we'll see.
Yeah.
uh
Do you have like a changelog link somewhere? Because I've actually used those myself. I don't remember what product it was, but it was like I was thinking like, oh, I want to see what has come out, and there was a changelog link, and you could click it, and it was just like a highlight of what had happened. Um,
yeah,
and when I saw that, I was like, oh, that's pretty useful, because then it's more of that pull and not so much push. Like if you click, if you're interested, you click the changelog button, you're like in a modus to look at that. If you're getting product update emails, like I'm usually, well, I am, because like I'm just very interested in to
yeah,
see what other people are making. But like if it was like a clothing company or whatever, like I wouldn't care if they had like new things happening. But I would be annoyed if I didn't know if it was important to me, or I don't know, like if there's like a way that you can access that information without having to be subscribed anywhere, where you can be like, oh, wonder what's happened. Like
yeah,
now I have time to look into new features. Because that's also something, like when you do release new features, people often have to like change something in the way they're doing it. And maybe if they have like 5 campaigns over the next month that they need to get out, that's when they would be super annoyed if you just change the UI on them. because they don't want to change anything. They just want to get it done.
Right.
But then maybe in a slower period, they're like, oh, I need to see what new capabilities have come and like start playing around with that. That's a different kind of mental state. And then like something like a changelog, it doesn't have to be called a changelog, but like what's new? I don't know, something like that where you can like go and explore and be like, oh, companies, we can use that if there's some use cases, or like,
yeah, we had a section on our website called product updates for a while, and
I'm thinking inside. It needs to be inside the UI.
It needs to be inside,
on the logged in, because nobody looks at your website after they're signed up. Right?
Yeah, and then people like at some point, like we had the product updates in there, and then I think it was while we were working on the marketing feature or something, like one of those big features that just take a long time, and there was nothing else happening. We got feedback from people that were like, "Oh yeah, I looked at Userlist, but I didn't consider signing up for that with them because the last update and the product updates was from 6 months ago." So it looks like it's abandoned.
Like stable open source project. It hasn't had an update in 6 months. It must be crap. It's like, it's very good. That's why it's not been updated.
It's feature complete and it doesn't have any bugs. Like, what should we possibly do with this?
But you can have one of those. Sorry, now we're just we can like skip most of my update and do that next week, since we're like spending a lot of time on this. But I think this is interesting. I mean, this is interesting also, you know, for me with Outseta or with Preneur Follows or POW for that matters. Anyway, this thing that has happened with like personal blogs where it's like a /now. It's like a thing that you have like a now page. And on the now page, you talk about like what's up right now. And it's better in a way than a blog post that is very dated. You know, because you could have gotten that new job and been in that new job, or started on a new project and been in that project for, you know, the last 6 months, but it's still your now state. So think about products. It could be possible to kind of have more and now and then like latest updates, and they don't have to be dated even. You know, you could have just like the latest features added, and then now we are focusing on, and then don't promise a date, but like now we're focusing on bettering the editing experience or something like that. And even a sign up to be like, if you're very interested, like if you're super interested, sign up for our product updates. And then people can sign up again if they've signed off. But something like a now that's less, that's less like time, like less dated, but still kind of gives information about what are we working on and what will be happening in this space in the future.
Yeah.
Maybe we could start a trend, company now pages, or SaaS now pages.
It's not the worst of ideas. So far, I've been pretty anti changelog for sad reasons of like sometimes it looks like nothing's happening while there is stuff happening. But there's an argument like you could just tease the new thing you're working on. But then again, I'm also not a fan of public roadmaps because that builds expectations and kind of like if stuff's on the roadmap for 3 years, I mean, as product people, we know that's just the reality, right? Like the list of ideas is never ending and the list of things you want to do eventually, same, right? But it might take forever until you actually get there. But just promising, like just telling people the thing you're working on right now, I could get behind that. That makes sense. Combine that with maybe like a not dated changelog of new stuff that's added. There might be something there. It's a good idea.
Because it could be like a now and then latest changes, and you don't have to date them, or like newest features. Yeah. Who knows what newest means?
Right. Yes. Yeah, not putting a date on it.
Then people had to go to like the web archive or like the Wayback Machine and try to figure out how.
And then actually then put effort into figuring out what's actually going on.
And if they're that interested, they're welcome. Like they can do that if it's that important to them. But yeah, a little bit of a now page. I need to add that to my own site anyway. But that could be interesting to test out for Outseta as well, because it's like like you've been doing now, you've been working on reporting. Like you don't know exactly what's going to come out of it, but you know something is coming out of it because you've been working on it for a while. It's not like we're going to scrap reporting in the middle of this kind of sprint or initiative.
That's the one thing I'm wondering about. Like, what about the things that you work on and maybe have like full intentions of launching eventually, but then for whatever reason have to scrap and abandon?
But there's a time period between exploration and like there's a period where you're like cleaning up the stuff and you're making sure it works, where it's, I would say 90% certain you're going to ship it. But then there's that period of time where you're very uncertain. So maybe don't write that. But
yeah.
Do you feel like at some point in this reporting work or the message composer / editor work, at some point you were like, it's gonna be shipped. Like we're not turning around.
I mean, for the most part, it's not a problem, but I don't want to get into too many details here. But last year, one of the things we were very excited about, and I think I mentioned it on the podcast even, was the Stripe integration, like first-class Stripe integration. And we had to scrap that for reasons that I can't get into publicly in full detail right now. But for the moment, it's not happening. It's hopefully happening eventually. But as of right now, we can't ship it in a version that, well, there might be ways, but it will not be as nice as we wanted it to be. So
I get your point. So yeah. Okay, but maybe just the latest latest features.
Yeah, I mean, there's an argument. Yeah, and the question is, if you drop something from the Now page, will people notice, and will people get that upset about it, or will they just forget about it and just see that there's something else on the page now? But yeah, I like the idea of combining it with a sign up thing, right? Sign up for the waitlist, something like that, because that's probably also a good idea to gauge interest a little bit, or build like a mini internal launch list of like people that you can beta test with and stuff like that. So yeah, I think about it a little bit more.
And in 5 years, when every SaaS has a Now page, we
can refer back to this particular episode.
Do you have any other updates?
I have, but that's mostly stuff where I'm not sure if it should be on the Now page right now.
So now you don't want to talk about it in case somebody's listening, and
no, I mean,
we'll hold you to it.
Looking at the clock, it's this episode has a decent length. Let's talk about this stuff next week, because I don't think there will be much. Like, yeah, it's fine. We can talk about this next week as well, and it will still be relevant.
Say, I had forgotten the Stripe integration happened, and I was very excited about it.
Yeah, and I'm still very excited about it.
No, but to your point that maybe people, and especially I think if it's not like super technical, if it's more like, okay, I want to check out what's up and not feel like it's not a promise, or it's not a, I don't know. Anyway, we'll talk enough about that. But and then we'll talk about, this is going to be fun because I just tweeted that we would talk about the future of Prune Your Follows today, but we'll do it next week. It's going to take a while because I need a lot of input from you.
Okay.
But other than that, I am really enjoying the work without Seta. So I am answering help desk tickets, and I'm really enjoying it. And people are so nice. It's amazing. And also just like, oh, it's so good to see you join the team, and you're a good addition. Like, customers are saying that. So that's
awesome.
Good that they're that interested in Outseta, that they're following the company updates and they are like letting me know. So that's super cool. And I think the first kind of DevRel thing that I will be doing is to create a Framer integration. And I've had nothing to do with Framer, so that will be an undertaking.
And remind me, what's Framer again?
I think it's called Framer. Framer. It's a no code website builder.
The thing that used to be this like design mock-up thingy.
I don't know. It's like the new kid on the not the new kid, but I've just seen a lot of hype for Framer. So it's I guess a Webflow competitor in a way, but it feels to me because Webflow is like very. See, I'm not enough into this space yet, but it feels to me that Webflow is very much for designers. So you have like a lot of config possibilities. You can do basically anything in Webflow that you could do in a design software. And it seems to me that Framer is a little bit more like they created sections for you and they've created parts that you can build websites from.
Interesting. It might be that it's the Framer thing that I had in mind. But I think when they started out, they were basically like a mini IDE for building prototype components. Like basically making it easy enough for designers.
This I remember.
Yeah.
And then you could like export them as React components or something.
Yeah, but that was even afterwards. Like I think the first version was just like you plug some components together and you get this nice UI element that you then can show your developers so they know what to build. I feel like that was like the very first version of Framer, and then exporting to React I think was a little bit down the road, and apparently now it's a website builder. So that's quite an evolution.
Yes, and it seems like they're doing very well. And yes, the point is to get, and they have a plugin ecosystem so that
interesting.
We can own and create a plugin that makes it so that you can create, you can drop in the Adseta plugin and then you can configure Adseta and then we'll sync some things back and forth or whatever. I need to look at this, but that's my first DevRel task. So, but I think that's going to be cool because then I actually get to build a proper integration. That's going to be much better way of really getting under the hood of our API and understanding like where are the challenges, where is it working, where are documentation lacking, and all of that. But I ended up postponing it until next month because I was supposed to start without Adseta 2 days a week this month, but Norway has no work days in May. It's basically bank holidays and squeeze days. That's the old, and next year it will be even worse. Next year it's going to be the best May for employees and the worst day for employers in many, many years. So for instance, next week, Wednesday is 17th of May, which is our national Independence Day, or like our national day, our Independence Day. And then on Thursday, it's one of the regular like Christian bank holidays, which means nobody's going to work Friday. So next week is a 2-day working week. And then there's another Monday that is a bank holiday, and then it's just a mess. So I was like, I'm sorry, I didn't realize, because sometimes these bank holidays land on the weekends, but this year none of them land on weekends. So like it's one of those like where it's maxed out, but then next year they're going to shift to even more in the middle of the week, which means there will be more squeeze days that Norwegians don't work. Yeah, but so I was like, I'm sorry, could I postpone this another month? Because this is like there's no, I live in a weird country. We don't work in May.
And in the summer, right?
And in the summer, so sorry. I'll see you in August.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for hiring me. I start like in August.
Maybe September, probably. But anyway, so and then my last update is that, and maybe I'll even reiterate on it next episode, but the Pirate Princess, my daughter, has made her first website using mmm.page, which is an awesome tool that I also want to make some demos with Adseta plus mmm.page. But mmm.page is like an infinite canvas. You can put anything on the page, but it has this little UI that shows what will show up on mobile. So for mobile, it kind of just shows the middle of the screen. But I think it's like such a cool way of looking or thinking about it, instead of being, oh, this has to be like super responsive and like and that gets really hard when you have an infinite canvas type UI. But And it's also very much geared towards the whimsical web. So if you go to Lillian's website, you'll understand what I mean, because you can put anything on this canvas. You can just like throw things on the canvas, but then you can also add text and embeds and all of that stuff. And it just turns out pretty cool. So Lillian.mmm.page, and then there's a separate page, but it's linked. I had to teach her linking to, then there's a separate page for our little degu, our rodents.
Cool.
So, yeah. And I just must say, she was like, "This is so much fun, Mom." And I'm like, "This is what I do. This is my job." She's like, "Wow." And then and then she was like, "Can I make more web pages?" I was like, "Yes, you may."
You must be super proud.
I'm so proud. It's such a good use of the laptop she got. Inherited. So it's MMA page. The only thing she's allowed to do on the laptop is MMM page and Minecraft Creative Edition. So
nice, awesome. Yeah. Teach them how to build stuff. That's good.
Exactly. Build before consume. I know. Good.
100%. Yes. Well, it was fun talking to you. Yes. See you around the interwebs. Bye.